Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Julie, and if you haven't seen me before, I'm 53 and I was born with spina bifida, scoliosis, and I've got other disabilities. If you go and check out my previous videos, I have done videos about my spina bifida, which will show you photographs, what my back looks like, what my leg looks like, etc, etc. Anyway, today we're going to talk about being disabled and being pregnant. That's a minefield in itself. I got married when I was 20. By the way, there's my little parrot there, so he might decide to join us. I got married when I was 20. I always knew that I wanted to have children. My doctor advised me to go and see some specialists to see what their advice would be on having children, because I'm quite severely disabled. So me and my husband went along, we met these consultants, and we're talking about, I'm 53, so we're talking about over 30 years ago now. And it was like a board meeting when we went in. There were like these old professors with little glasses on who'd never ever met me before, knew nothing about me. And we're there basically to make a decision on whether I should have kids or not. They spoke down to us. I felt as if that because they knew I was disabled, they must have thought that I'd got mental problems as well, which is not the case at all. But they spoke down to me. I felt as if they didn't know me. Everything that they said was negative. They didn't advise me to have children. They said that I wouldn't be able to carry children. You name it, everything was negative. So when we both come out the meeting, I was like so down. And I just thought, you know what? I'm going to prove you all wrong. You're all saying that you think this will happen. You think I won't be able to have kids. You think I won't be able to carry kids, but you don't actually know. And all my life, doctors and specialists have said, Julie won't be able to walk, Julie won't be able to do this, Julie won't be able to do that. And I've always proved them all wrong. Everything they've ever said that I'd never be able to do, I have been able to do. I'm quite headstrong and determined. And if I set my mind to something, I'm always going to achieve it. So I thought, stuff them. I'm going to prove them all wrong. And I remember my doctor saying to me, you're going to ignore every bit of advice you've been given. And I went, I am. I'm going to do my thing. I always know whether call it a sixth sense, or I don't know. I just always knew that my kids would be healthy and there'd be nothing wrong with them. I don't know where that thought come from. I just always knew. That's something I never ever doubted. So anyway, we tried for 12 months to get pregnant, but I didn't get pregnant. I'd been on the injection contraceptive at the time, and I know it can take quite a while for your body to get back to normal. So 12 months, didn't get pregnant, and I thought I'd give it another 12 months. And then obviously if I hadn't got caught then I'd go back and see about getting tests done in case I couldn't have kids. So anyway, it came to about 2 years we'd been trying, and then I got pregnant. I'm not going to lie, I was scared, I was excited. I think my parents were a bit worried. I think my in-laws were a bit worried. I'm only 4'9", so I'm really tiny. And also because my back's very disfigured and I've got no ribs on my left side, I think they were worrying about the strain it had put on my back. I knew it wasn't going to be easy pregnancy, but I knew I could do it. I was determined. I had didn't suffer any morning sickness. I was fine up until about 5 months. And then I started to get really high blood pressure. And it wouldn't stabilise. So I ended up having to stop in hospital and just be allowed out at weekends so they could monitor it. Because obviously at 5 months, it's too early to deliver the baby. I'd had scans on my son, and he had got no disabilities. He was perfect. The only thing is he was quite small. and they were concerned that he was going to be a small baby. So it was he used to, like, well, where I've got no ribs on my left side, my son used to lie there, so I'd constantly get like a stitch pain. Yeah, it was hard carrying the weight, because obviously that's putting extra pressure on my spine, and because I've only got one lung that works, that also added pressure on my breathing. So yeah, I'm not going to say it was easy, but I was determined to do it. So obviously I had to stop in hospital, go home at weekends, which was such a ball ache. I used to get stared at and people tutting because I was disabled and pregnant. I just thought, well, what right has anybody got to decide whether I can have children or not? And why are strangers tutting at me? It was, 30 years ago. Anyway, I took no notice. We got to about, I think it was 32 weeks pregnant I was, and again I was still in hospital and then going home at weekends, but my blood pressure was getting dangerously high then. A few times I'd been took down to the delivery room because my blood pressure was just dangerous. Obviously I'd got preeclampsia by this point. My son wasn't really growing very much. They kept worrying that he was going to be a small baby. We got to 34 weeks and it was decided that they were going to have to deliver my son because it was getting too dangerous for my health and for my son's health. I couldn't have an epidural because my spine's too disfigured and they didn't want to risk doing an epidural. I couldn't deliver a baby normally because of the disfigurement in my hips and pelvis. So I had to have a general anaesthetic. So I had a general anaesthetic and my son was born. He was perfectly healthy. He only weighed 3 pounds. So obviously he had to go to the baby intensive care bit. But he was breathing on his own. He didn't have to have any oxygen or anything. But he was a tiny little thing. He did have a feeding tube up his nose, but that's all. I found it very hard when my son was born, because when I had a general anaesthetic, I found it very hard to bond straight away, because I felt as if that they'd just given me this baby and said, this is your baby. And it just, because I hadn't experienced birth and I wasn't awake when I had him, they could have given me anybody's baby, and it took me a while to actually physically bond with my son. I know that sounds awful, but I think that's it. Don't get me wrong, it only took a few days after I'd been feeding him, washing him, dressing him. But that instant first, here's your son, I don't know if it was all the anaesthetic still in me, but it was just really hard. I found it really, really hard. And then obviously I stopped in hospital, and then I'd go down to the baby unit every day and feed him and wash him and hold him, and that's when you build your bond. That's when I built my bond with him. And he was beautiful. He was really tiny and wrinkly, and he had to wear extra small premature baby clothes, and he actually looked like a little doll. So when he did finally come home and I used to go out with him, people used to think I was holding a doll because he was that tiny, but he was beautiful. And now he's a big strapping 31-year-old. So anyway, that was my son. I had him. My son was 4 months old, and I got pregnant again. Oh my God, my family weren't happy. My in-laws weren't happy. They were really oh my God, you're not going to count now. You're physically disabled. You've already got a 4-month-old baby, and now you're pregnant again. But I actually found the second pregnancy a lot easier. I didn't have to go in hospital once. I think it was because my body had just had a baby, so it was still ready, if that makes sense. I sailed through that pregnancy. Didn't have to go in hospital once. Went up to 38 weeks, and then they decided to deliver my daughter. She was perfectly healthy and she was £6.13. So she didn't have to go in any special baby unit or anything. So she was perfectly healthy, a big baby. Well, big for me, with my size and everything. Again, I had a general anaesthetic. And I was just so happy that I'd got a little boy and a little girl, and they were both perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. I had to do some things differently. When I carried my children, I had to carry them tucked under my arm. And why I had to do this was because I knew I was safe holding them, and that if I did fall or if I did trip, I knew I was safe. I'd got them in a safe position. And even from early as 4 weeks, they held me. It was as if their instincts knew that they had to hold on to me. And it's quite funny now, because I just used to took them like under my arm. The head used to be here, so stuff like this. And I knew they were tight and secure under my arm. So going upstairs and that, I always had my free arm then. And they used to be like just tucked under here. And they got used to that. They held me, like I said, at 4 weeks. They naturally held me like that. So that's one way I used to carry them. When they learnt to walk, they used to copy me. Because I walked with quite a severe limp, and I suppose all they saw was me, they used to copy me walking. It was so hard to get them out of the habit of copying me walk. It was quite comical, really, but also trying to get them out of the habit of doing it. I did find it hard having 2 babies, literally, that young, close together. I can remember crying on the settee once to my mum saying, "Oh, I can't do this anymore." And my mum just said, "Pull yourself together. You've got 2 babies, pull yourself together." So I did it, just got on with it. My son's 31 and my daughter's 30, and I've got 4 beautiful, healthy grandchildren. So if I'd have listened to all them professors, consultants, doctors who all advised me not to have children, not to do this, not to do that, then I wouldn't have the beautiful grandchildren and my beautiful children. So sometimes I think you know yourself, you know your own body, you know your own mind, and I think you know what you're capable of. So anybody out there who is disabled, who wants children, and I wouldn't let anybody stop you, unless it's something that's going to be life-threatening for you. But if it isn't, and you go for it, stuff them, do what you want. It's your life. Elsie, my dog barking. So that's a little bit about being pregnant and disabled, the joys of it. I wish people had been more accepting of it. There's nothing stopping anybody with a disability having a child. Nothing at all. So I'm quite an advocate for that. I'd hate to think that anybody should go without having a child just because of other people's opinions. You do what's right for you. And yeah, it does put a strain on your back when you've got spina bifida, scoliosis. And it probably did do more some wear and tear and God knows what. But it's worth it. When I look at my kids and my grandkids, it was all worth it. I don't regret that at all. So anyway, guys, that's a little about me. Please like, share and subscribe. If you are disabled and you're thinking about having children and you want some advice, just give me a message. Anyway, guys, have a great day. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you again shortly.